The massive space station hung in the void like a metal flower, its countless chambers and corridors stretching for miles in every direction. This was the Galactic Council chambers, where hundreds of different alien species came together to make laws and solve problems that affected the entire galaxy. Ships from 1,000 different worlds docked at its ports every day, bringing representatives who looked nothing like each other, but somehow managed to work together. Ambassador Lisa Martinez walked through the wide hallway with steady steps, her black diplomatic uniform neat and pressed. Beside her, Lieutenant Commander Jake Thompson carried a simple data pad and nothing else. Their footsteps echoed softly on the polished metal floor as they made their way toward the main council chamber. Other beings moved around them, but Lisa and Jake seemed completely relaxed, as if they were taking a walk in a park back on Earth. This was what caught everyone's attention. The humans carried nothing. No weapons, no armor, no shields, no protective gear of any kind. They looked like they had just stepped out of an office building rather than entered one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. A group of Krellian warriors stomped past them, their massive bodies encased in power armor that hummed with energy. Each suit was 12 feet tall and equipped with plasma cannons, missile launchers, and energy shields. The Krellians inside were already 8 feet tall and incredibly strong, but they never went anywhere without their battle suits. The ground shook slightly with each step they took. Jake glanced at them and nodded politely. One of the Krellians looked down at him through the glowing visor of his helmet. The alien warrior seemed confused by the human's casual greeting and kept walking without responding. Near the food courts, a group of Zephyrians skittered by on their 6 legs. These insect-like beings had razor-sharp claws that could cut through steel, and their chitinous shells were harder than most body armor. Their compound eyes reflected the station's lights like jewels, and their mandibles clicked constantly as they spoke to each other in their buzzing language. Even they wore additional armor plating and carried energy weapons strapped to their backs. Lisa watched them pass and smiled slightly. The Zephyrians noticed her looking, and several of them stopped to stare back. They seemed puzzled by her calm expression. One of them approached slowly, its claws clicking on the floor. "Human diplomat," it buzzed in translated speech. "Why do you show no protection here? This place holds many dangers." Lisa turned to face the creature completely, making direct eye contact with its alien gaze. "We don't need protection," she said simply. "We're here for diplomatic talks, not war." The Zephyrian's antennae twitched nervously. "But the Vraxians are here, and the Goliathans, and the Corvan Empire. These are warrior species. They could crush you without thinking." "They could try," Jake said calmly, not looking up from his datapad. The Zephyrian stared at him for a long moment, then quickly scurried away to rejoin its group. They whispered among themselves in their buzzing language, glancing back at the humans repeatedly. As Lisa and Jake continued down the corridor, more aliens took notice of them. A group of Altarian monks glided past, their flowing robes hiding the ceremonial energy staffs they carried. These weapons looked like simple walking sticks, but everyone knew they could cut through a starship hull if activated. The monks were peaceful beings who rarely fought, but they still never went anywhere without their staffs. Even the small, seemingly harmless Centaurians wore personal shield generators on their belts. These blue-skinned beings were scientists and scholars, but they understood that knowledge meant nothing if you didn't live long enough to use it. "Lisa," Jake said quietly, "we're getting a lot of attention." "I noticed," she replied. "Let them look. It's better they wonder than assume." They reached the main council chamber, a vast, circular room with seating for thousands of beings. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy sat in their designated sections, each group surrounded by their own security measures. The chamber hummed with the sound of hundreds of different languages being translated in real time. Lisa and Jake took their seats in the human section, which was notably smaller than most others. Earth was still relatively new to galactic politics, with only 50 years of contact with other species. But somehow, human representatives had managed to secure important positions in several major trade agreements and defense pacts. The Vraxian delegate, A large reptilian being named Commander Shrek rose from his seat across the chamber. His species looked like upright crocodiles with thick scales that could stop most energy weapons. He wore a suit of ceremonial armor that was both protective and decorative, covered in symbols of his military achievements. "I call the attention of this council," Shrek announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's speakers. "I have a question for our human colleagues." Lisa stood up smoothly. "The human delegation is happy to answer questions, Commander." Shrek pointed one clawed finger at her. "You walk among us with no weapons, no armor, no defenses of any kind. My people have studied your species. You are small, weak, and slow compared to most of us here, yet you act as if you fear nothing. Why?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. This was clearly a question many beings had been thinking about. Lisa could see representatives from dozens of species leaning forward in their seats, waiting for her answer. "We don't fear anything because we don't need to," Lisa replied calmly. "Fear is what you feel when you think you can't handle a situation." "We can handle any situation," Commander Shrek's eyes narrowed. "You speak of handling situations, but you carry nothing to handle them with. A Goliathan could tear you apart with his bare hands. A Corvan battle drone could vaporize you with a thought. What could you possibly do against such threats?" Lisa smiled. It was not a warm smile. "We would do what humans always do, Commander. We would adapt, overcome, and win. With what weapons?" Shrek pressed. "What tools? What technology?" "With whatever we had available," Jake said, speaking up for the first time. "Humans are very good at making do with what's around." The chamber fell silent. Several species exchanged glances, and Lisa could see confusion and concern on many faces. The Andromedans, tall gray beings with large black eyes, whispered among themselves in their telepathic way. The Nexus Collective, a hive mind species, the shared thoughts across millions of Badas, seemed agitated about something. Dr. Kylara, the Centaurian scientist, stood up slowly. "Ambassador Martinez, your confidence is ... interesting, but surely you understand that confidence without backing is simply arrogance? Is it?" Lisa asked. "Or is it just knowing your capabilities?" She gestured around the chamber. "Every species here evolved natural weapons or natural defenses. Claws, teeth, armor, venom, telepathy, hive minds, size, strength. You all developed these things because you needed them to survive on your home worlds." Lisa paused, letting her words sink in. "Humans evolved something different. We evolved the ability to think our way out of problems. To use tools, to work together, to never give up no matter how bad things get," Commander Shrek snorted. "Pretty words, but words don't stop plasma bolts or energy blades." "No," Lisa agreed. "But the mind behind the words might find a way to make sure those weapons never get used." The session continued, but Lisa could feel the weight of many eyes on her and Jake, as different species gave their reports and made their proposals. She noticed beings stealing glances at the human section. Some looked curious, others concerned, and a few seemed almost ... diverse. During a break in the proceedings, the massive Goliathan ambassador, a creature that stood 15 feet tall and was built like a living mountain, accidentally bumped into Jake as they both reached for the same refreshment dispenser. The collision should have sent Jake flying, but he simply steadied himself and nodded politely. "Excuse me," Jake said calmly. The Goliathan stared down at him with eyes like burning coals. This was a being that could crush starship hulls with his bare hands, whose species had conquered dozens of worlds through pure physical might. But something in Jake's calm demeanor seemed to unsettle the giant alien. "I apologize," the Goliathan rumbled, and quickly moved away. Jake got his drink and returned to his seat as if nothing had happened. But Lisa noticed that several other beings had watched the entire exchange with great interest. As the day's session ended, and beings began filing out of the chamber, Lisa could hear whispered conversations in dozens of languages. The translation systems picked up fragments. ... No weapons. ... Too confident. ... What are they hiding? ... DOE sends single quote. Walking back to their quarters, Jake finally spoke up. I think we're making them nervous. Good, Lisa replied. Nervous beings make fewer mistakes and better decisions. Should we be worried about all the attention? Lisa considered this as they walked past groups of alien beings who turned to watch them pass. Jake, what's the most dangerous animal on Earth? Humans, he answered without hesitation. And why is that? Because we're the only species that can kill everything else on the planet, including ourselves, and we're smart enough to know it, Lisa nodded. The beings here are starting to figure that out. They're beginning to realize that the reason we don't carry weapons isn't because we're peaceful or stupid. Then why don't we carry weapons? 3 days had passed since the incident in the council chamber, and the questions about human behavior had only grown stronger. In a small meeting room deep within the station, 5 beings sat around a curved table, their voices hushed as they discussed what they had observed. Commander Thex of the Andromedans leaned forward, his large black eyes reflecting the room's soft lighting. His gray skin was smooth and unmarked, typical of his species, but his expression showed deep concern. I have watched the humans for 72 hours now, he said in his quiet, measured voice. Their behavior makes no sense according to any survival pattern we understand. Dr. Kalara nodded, her blue Centaurian features tight with concentration. As a scientist, she had spent her entire career studying different species and their behaviors. I agree completely. Every species follows basic survival instincts. When faced with potential threats, beings either prepare to fight, prepare to flee, or show submission. Humans do none of these things. The third member of their group, Captain Vorthak of the Corvin Empire, shifted his bulky armored form in his chair. His species looked like walking tanks with thick metal-like skin and built-in weapon systems. My people have fought wars across the galaxy for thousands of years, he said, his voice deep and grinding. We know how warriors behave. We know how diplomats behave. We know how scared beings behave. Humans act like none of these. Sitting across from him was Ambassador Zix of the Nexus Collective, a being whose body hosted part of a vast hive mind that connected billions of individuals across space. When she spoke, it was with the voice of countless minds thinking together. Our collective has processed behavioral data from 847 different species. Human patterns match nothing in our databases. This troubles us greatly. The last member of their unofficial group was General Mordek of the Hegemony, a warrior species that had earned respect through countless battles. His scarred face and missing eye told the story of a lifetime of combat. I have seen beings face death with courage, he said slowly. I have seen them face it with fear. I have seen them face it with madness. But I have never seen beings face potential death with such calm indifference. Dr. Kalara activated a holographic display that showed footage from the past few days. Look at this, she said, pointing to an image of Lisa Martinez walking through a corridor filled with armed guards. From 6 different species. She walks past beings who could kill her in seconds, and her heart rate never changes. Her stress hormones remain at normal levels. She shows no signs of fear, aggression, or submission. The display switched to show Jake Thompson sitting in a cafeteria, calmly eating while surrounded by creatures that look like walking nightmares. And here, Lieutenant Commander Thompson shares a meal with draconian shock troops. These beings are literally bred for war, designed to feel no emotion except the desire to kill. Yet he sits among them as if they were old friends. Commander. Dex touched the display, zooming in on Jake's face. Notice his eyes. He makes direct eye contact with each of them. In most species, this would be seen as a challenge. But the Draconians don't react with aggression. They seem uncomfortable. That's what I don't understand, Captain Vorthak said, his voice frustrated. My people are not easily impressed. We have fought the Goliathans, the Reapers, the death cults of Zarian. We fear nothing that lives. But something about these humans makes even our bravest warriors uneasy. Ambassador Zix's compound eyes flickered as she accessed more data from the collective mind. We have analyzed the brain patterns of 1,247 different beings who have interacted with humans over the past 3 days. In every case, we detect elevated stress levels, increased alertness, and activation of threat response systems. But none of them can explain why they feel this way. Dr. Kailara pulled up another file. I decided to investigate their history. What I found is even more puzzling. The display showed star charts and historical records humans have had contact with galactic civilization for only 50 years. In that time, they have participated in 17 major diplomatic negotiations. And, General Mordek prompted, they won 16 of them, Dr. Kailara said quietly. Not just won, but achieved outcomes that were considered impossible. They negotiated trade agreements with the Syndicate pirates. They convinced the Corvan Empire to share technology. They even got the Draconian Warclans to agree to peace talks. Captain Vorthak's armored plates shifted as he sat up straighter. Wait, the Draconians agreed to peace talks? My people have been fighting them for 3 centuries. How did humans accomplish this in 5 years? That's exactly what I want to know, Dr. Kailara replied. So I started investigating each negotiation. In every single case, humans arrived with minimal military support, no threatening displays of force, and no advanced weapons. Yet somehow they left with everything they wanted. Commander Thex was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps they have technology we cannot detect. Hidden weapons, personal shields, some form of protection we don't understand. I thought so too, Dr. Kailara said. So I requested detailed scans of all human personnel. The results are in their files. She activated another display showing medical and technical readouts. No hidden technology. No implants, no biological modifications. No genetic enhancements. They are exactly what they appear to be. Baseline organic beings with no natural weapons, no natural armor, and no special abilities. General Mordek studied the data carefully. This makes no sense. How does a species survive long enough to develop space travel without any natural defenses? How do they compete with other species who have every advantage? I investigated that too, Dr. Kailara said. Their homeworld, Earth, was occupied by thousands of different species. Most were larger, stronger, faster, or more dangerous than humans, yet humans became the dominant species. They didn't just survive, they thrived. Ambassador Zix accessed her collective memory, searching through vast databases of information. Our records show that Earth's ecosystem was remarkably hostile. Predators that could kill humans with ease. Weather patterns that could destroy entire settlements. Diseases that could wipe out populations. Yet humans not only survived, but eventually controlled their entire planet. How? Captain Vorthak asked. Unknown, Dr. Kailara admitted. Their historical records are unclear about many details. But what we do know is that humans developed tool use, complex social structures, and problem-solving abilities far beyond what should have been necessary for survival. Commander Thex pulled up additional files. I have been monitoring their communications. They speak to each other in ways that suggest they are always prepared for conflict, even when discussing peaceful topics. Listen to this conversation between Ambassador Martinez and her aide. The recording played, Jake, make sure the emergency. Protocols are updated. If something goes wrong, I want options. Already done? Lisa, I've identified 17 different exit routes and cataloged everything in the nearby area that could be useful. Good, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. They talk about being ready for violence as casually as discussing the weather, General Mordek observed. This suggests a mindset that expects conflict at all times. Dr. Kailara nodded. But here's what's really interesting. I monitored the brain patterns of other species when they heard humans talking like this. Everyone who listens to these conversations shows increased stress responses, even though the humans are speaking calmly. It's as if they're saying something else entirely, Commander Thex said thoughtfully. Something that other species understand on an instinctual level. Ambassador Zix consulted her collective mind again. We have a theory. The collective believes that humans may be communicating threats without realizing it. Their casual discussion of violence and preparation for conflict may be triggering ancient survival instincts in other species. Captain Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. I have seen this before, but only in the most dangerous predators. They move with absolute confidence because they know they can kill anything they encounter. They don't need to show aggression because their very presence is a threat. But humans aren't physically dangerous, Dr. Kailara protested. They're small, weak, and slow compared to most species here. Physical danger isn't the only kind of danger, General Mordek said slowly. I have fought enemies who were stronger than me, faster than me, better armed than me. But the opponents I feared most were the ones who could think better than me. Commander Thex activated another display showing tactical analyses. I've been studying human military history. What I found is disturbing. Humans don't just fight. They wage war in ways that other species find incomprehensible. The display showed battle records and strategic reports. They use tactics that we would consider impossible. They turn their enemies' strengths against them. They fight in ways that cause maximum psychological damage. They make their opponents afraid to fight them. And they never give up, Dr. Kailara added. I found records of human conflicts that lasted for decades. Situations where any other species would have surrendered or sought peace. But humans continued fighting until they achieved total victory. Ambassador Zix's expression grew troubled. The collective has reached a disturbing conclusion. We believe that humans may be the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of their physical abilities. The routine council session was proceeding normally when the alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and automated voices announced in dozens of languages that unauthorized ships were approaching the station. The massive chamber fell silent as representatives from hundreds of species looked around nervously. Ambassador Lisa Martinez remained in her seat, calmly reviewing her datapad as if nothing had happened. Beside her, Jake Thompson continued taking notes about the trade discussion that had been interrupted. Around them, other beings were standing up, checking their weapons, and activating their defensive systems. The main viewing screen at the front of the chamber flickered to life, showing the dark expanse of space around the station. 7 massive warships hung in the void, their hulls black and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. These were not the ships of any council member species. Station Commander Yeltok, a tall crystalline being whose species had built the council chambers, spoke through the communication system. Attention all delegates. We have been contacted by the Domination Syndicate. They are requesting immediate audience with the council leadership. A wave of fear rippled through the chamber. The Domination Syndicate was notorious throughout the galaxy as a collection of the most aggressive and warlike species. They had been expanding their territory for decades, conquering worlds and enslaving populations. Most civilized species tried to avoid any contact with them. Dr. Kailara, who had been sitting with her investigation team, turned to look at the human section. Lisa and Jake were still sitting calmly, showing no signs of concern. This was exactly the kind of behavior that had puzzled the aliens for days. The chamber doors at the far end suddenly exploded inward, sending metal fragments flying across the room. Through the smoking opening marched a group of beings that made even the most dangerous council members step back in alarm. General Vex led the group, his 8-foot frame encased in black battle armor that hummed with deadly energy. His species, the Reapers, looked like walking death machines. Their natural exoskeletons were reinforced with metal plating, and retractable blade weapons extended from their arms. Behind him came representatives from 5 other equally terrifying species, all armed and ready for violence. Citizens of the galaxy, General Vex announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's speakers. The Domination Syndicate has come to collect what is owed to us. Commander Shrek of the Vraxians stood up slowly, his own formidable appearance suddenly seeming small compared to the newcomers. General Vex, this is neutral territory. The council chambers are protected by galactic law. General Vex laughed. A sound like grinding metal. Laws are for the weak. We are here to inform you that this sector now belongs to the Syndicate. All species represented here will pay tribute or face conquest. Panic began to spread through the chamber. Representatives from peaceful species huddled together, while even the warrior races began calculating their chances in a fight. The Syndicate's reputation for brutality was well known throughout the galaxy. You have 1 hour to decide, General Vex continued. Submit to our authority, or we will take what we want by force. Throughout this entire exchange, Lisa Martinez had not moved from her seat. She continued reading her datapad with the same calm attention she might give to a weather report. Jake Thompson had stopped taking notes, but only because he was now observing the Syndicate forces with the casual interest of someone watching an interesting documentary. General Vex noticed the humans' lack of reaction and strode over to their section. His massive form towered over Lisa's chair, and his blade weapons extended with a threatening hiss. "You," he growled, pointing at her, "you show no fear. Do you not understand the situation?" Lisa looked up from her datapad and met his gaze. Directly, her expression was polite and professional, as if she were greeting a colleague at a business meeting. "I understand perfectly, General. You're attempting to intimidate the council members into paying tribute to avoid violence." "Attempting?" General Vex's voice rose dangerously. "Small creature, I could end your life with a single movement. My forces could destroy this entire station." "Yes, you could," Lisa agreed calmly, "but you won't." The chamber fell completely silent. Even the Syndicate forces seemed surprised by her response. General Vex leaned closer, his blade weapons now inches from Lisa's throat. "And why won't I?" "Because you're not stupid," Lisa replied. "You came here to make a deal, not to start a war. If you wanted to destroy the station, you would have done it already instead of coming inside to talk." Jake Thompson finally looked up from his observations. "Besides," he added conversationally, "violence would be a mistake." General Vex whirled to face him. "A mistake? You dare threaten me, tiny human?" "I'm not threatening anyone," Jake said mildly. "I'm just pointing out that violence would be counterproductive for everyone involved." "Counterproductive?" General Vex's laugh was harsh and bitter. "I have conquered 17 worlds. I have crushed armies that were 1,000 times your size. What could you possibly do to stop me?" Lisa stood up slowly, her movements fluid and confident. She was less than half the general's height, but somehow her presence seemed to fill the space around her. "The question isn't what we could do to stop you, General. The question is what we would do to stop you." "Words," General Vex snarled. "Nothing but words." "Yes," Lisa agreed. "But words have power. They can start wars, end them, or prevent them entirely. The choice is yours." Dr. Kalara watched this exchange with growing amazement. She had seen many beings face death with courage, but she had never seen anyone face overwhelming force with such complete calm. The humans weren't just unafraid. They seemed almost bored by the threat. General Vex raised his blade weapons, the energy fields around them crackling with deadly power. "I will show you the price of defiance." "Wait," Lisa said, holding up one hand. "Before you do something you'll regret. Let me ask you a question. Do you know why humans don't carry weapons in the council chambers?" "Because you are weak and foolish," General Vex replied. "No," Lisa said. "It's because we don't need them. We learned long ago that the most dangerous weapon is the one your enemy doesn't see coming." Jake stood up beside her, his movement casual but somehow precise. "Every species in the galaxy evolved natural weapons. Claws, teeth, armor, venom, size, strength. You all developed these things because you needed them to survive. And humans?" General Vex asked mockingly. "What did humans develop?" "The ability to kill anything," Lisa replied simply, "including each other." The statement hung in the air like a physical presence. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, and even some of the Syndicate forces seemed to tense at her words. "You see," Lisa continued, "every other species in the galaxy evolved to be predators or prey. You all have natural limitations built into your biology and psychology. You can only kill in certain ways, under certain circumstances, for certain reasons. Humans evolved differently," Jake added. "We evolved to be problem solvers. And sometimes the problem is that something needs to stop existing. General Vex's blade weapons wavered slightly. You speak of killing as if it were a simple task. For us it is, Lisa said. We don't need claws or fangs or venom or size. We can use anything as a weapon. We can work together in ways that other species cannot. And most importantly, we can commit to violence with the same methodical precision we apply to any other problem. You're bluffing, General Vex said, but his voice lacked the confidence it had held moments before. Am I? Lisa asked. Tell me, General, how many humans have you fought in actual combat? General Vex was quiet for a moment. None. Your species avoids direct conflict. We avoid unnecessary conflict, Jake corrected. But when conflict becomes necessary, we don't just fight. We wage war in ways that other species find incomprehensible. Lisa walked closer to General Vex, her movements slow and deliberate. We study our enemies, we learn their weaknesses. We turn their strengths against them. We use tactics that cause maximum psychological damage. We make our opponents afraid to fight us. And we never give up, Jake added. Ever. We will continue fighting long after any other species would have surrendered. We will sacrifice anything, including ourselves, to achieve victory. Dr. Kalara felt a chill run through her body as she listened to this conversation. The humans weren't boasting or threatening. They were explaining in calm, matter-of-fact terms why they were dangerous. It was like listening to a documentary about apex predators. You're saying you would fight the entire Syndicate? General Vex asked. If necessary, Lisa replied. But that's not what we're saying. We're saying that violence would be a mistake because everyone here would lose something. You would lose ships and soldiers. We would lose people we care about. The other species would lose their homes and freedom. But you would win, General Vex said quietly. Yes, Lisa said simply. Eventually, we would win. We always do. The question is whether you want to find out what that victory would cost everyone involved, Jake gestured around the chamber. Or we could solve this problem the smart way. Talk about what you actually want, find a solution that works for everyone, and avoid the unpleasantness entirely. General Vex looked around the chamber, his blade weapons slowly retracting. General Vex stood in the center of the council chamber, his massive form still imposing despite the uncertainty that had crept into his voice. The other Syndicate forces remained at the ready, their weapons gleaming under the chamber's lights. But their confidence had been shaken by the humans' calm response to their threats. You speak of negotiation, General Vex said, his voice carrying a hint of suspicion. But the Syndicate does not negotiate from weakness. We take what we want through strength. Lisa Martinez remained standing, her posture relaxed but alert. And how has that worked out for you so far, General? We have conquered 17 worlds, General Vex replied, his chest swelling with pride. Billions of beings bow before Syndicate rule. And yet you're here talking instead of fighting, Jake Thompson observed. That suggests your usual methods aren't working as well as they used to. General Vex's blade weapons twitched, but he didn't. Extend them. We are here because we choose to be here. Are you? Lisa asked. Or are you here because conquest is getting harder? Because the species you're fighting are learning to work together? Because your enemies are becoming smarter and more organized? A ripple of discomfort passed through the Syndicate forces. Dr. Kailara, watching from her seat, noticed that several of the alien warriors were exchanging glances. Lisa's questions had hit close to home. The Syndicate fears nothing, General, Vex declared, but his voice lacked conviction. Everyone fears something, Lisa replied. The question is whether you're smart enough to admit it. Jake stepped forward slightly, his movement casual but somehow precise. General, you came here with 7 warships and a boarding party. That's a lot of firepower for a simple negotiation. What are you really afraid of? General Vex was quiet for a long moment. Around the chamber, representatives from hundreds of species watched the exchange with growing fascination. Many of them had never seen anyone speak to the Syndicate with such casual confidence. Prove it, General Vex said suddenly. You claim humans are dangerous. You say you don't need weapons. Prove it, Lisa tilted her head slightly. Prove what, exactly? Show me these capabilities you speak of. Demonstrate why we should fear a species that carries no weapons and wears no armor. Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded slightly. Are you sure? You want that demonstration, General? Some things can't be unseen. I have seen death in 1,000 forms, General Vex replied. Show me what makes humans special. Lisa looked around the chamber, her gaze taking in the assembled representatives. Very well. But first, let me ask the council members to observe carefully. What you're about to see will help you understand why humans behave the way we do. She turned back to General Vex. The first thing you need to understand about humans is that we see everything as a potential resource. Watch. Lisa walked over to the refreshment area near the chamber's edge. She picked up a simple drinking glass, holding it up so everyone could see. This is a cup. Most beings would use it to drink. A human sees 17 different weapons. With a quick motion, she struck the glass against the metal table edge. It broke cleanly, leaving her holding a sharp, jagged piece. Cutting tool, stabbing weapon, thrown projectile. She set the broken glass down and picked up a simple metal spoon. Leverage tool, pressure point weapon projectile. Jake joined her at the table. The key is not what the object is, but what it can become. He picked up a data pad similar to the one he had been using earlier. Information device, blunt weapon. Electrical component for improvised explosives, shield, distraction. Tool. General Vex watched with growing unease. Any species can pick up objects and use them as weapons. Can they? Lisa asked. She gestured to one of the Syndicate warriors, a reptilian being with natural armor plating. You there? Pick up that chair and use it as a weapon. The warrior looked confused but complied. He grabbed the chair and held it awkwardly, unsure how to proceed. Now watch a human do the same thing, Lisa said. She picked up an identical chair, and her grip immediately found the optimal balance point. She demonstrated several different attack patterns, each one fluid and precise. Battering ram, restraining device, projectile weapon, defensive barrier, climbing tool. Jake added, and that's just the obvious uses. Give us 5 minutes, and we could show you 30 more. Dr. Kalara found herself taking notes furiously. This was exactly the kind of behavioral pattern her team had been trying to understand. The humans didn't just see objects. They saw potential applications for every item around them. The second thing you need to understand, Lisa continued, is that humans are constantly aware of their environment. We map everything automatically. She pointed around the chamber without looking. 17 exit routes, 43 potential weapons within 10 meters. Optimal defensive positions, weak points in the station's structure. Escape routes through the ventilation system, Jake nodded. We do this unconsciously. Every human who enters a room immediately catalogs everything that might be useful if the situation turns violent. General Vex was beginning to look uncomfortable. This is just situational awareness. Many species develop this skill. Do they? Lisa asked. Jake, what's the heart rate of the Goliathan representative? Jake glanced across the chamber at the massive alien. Elevated, approximately 120 beats per minute. He's showing signs of stress. And the Zephyrian delegation? Agitated. Their wing cases are vibrating at a frequency that indicates anxiety. 3 of them are positioned for rapid retreat. Lisa looked at General Vex. We read body language, vocal patterns, micro-expressions, and behavioral cues from every species simultaneously. We know who's afraid, who's angry, who's lying, and who's about to do something stupid. Most importantly, Jake added, we know how to use that information. General Vex's blade weapons extended slightly. You're trying to intimidate me with psychology. No, Lisa said calmly. We're explaining why intimidation doesn't work on us. You came here expecting fear. You expected submission. You expected beings who would break under pressure. Instead, you found a species that analyzes threats, calculates responses, and remains calm under pressure because we've already planned for every possible outcome. Jake continued. Lisa walked closer to General Vex, her movement fluid and confident. The third thing you need to understand is that humans work together in ways that other species cannot comprehend. Jake, demonstration please. Without any visible signal, Jake moved to the opposite side of the chamber. Lisa began walking in a complex pattern, and Jake matched her movements perfectly. They created an intricate dance that covered every angle of approach to the Syndicate forces. Communication without words, Lisa explained as they moved. Coordination. Without conscious thought, we can work together as a unit even when separated by distance or obstacles. They stopped moving, but their positions formed a perfect tactical formation that covered all escape routes and provided multiple angles of attack. The Syndicate forces found themselves surrounded without realizing how it had happened. Now imagine 1,000 humans working together this way, Jake said. Or 1,000,000. We can coordinate complex operations across vast distances with minimal communication. General Vex looked around nervously. This is just training. Any military force can learn coordination. Can they? Lisa asked. Commander Vex, you've been studying human behavior for several days. What have you observed about our coordination abilities? Commander Vex stood up slowly, his gray features troubled. The humans coordinate constantly, even when they appear to be acting independently. They share information, resources, and responsibilities without conscious effort. It's as if they think as a collective while maintaining individual identity. And, that brings us to the fourth thing you need to understand, Lisa said. Humans never give up. Ever. We will continue fighting long after any other species would have surrendered or died. Jake nodded. We have a saying on Earth, the only way to stop a human is to kill them. And sometimes that's not enough. What? Do you mean? General Vex asked, though his voice suggested he didn't want to know the answer. We mean that humans will sacrifice anything to achieve victory, Lisa replied. Our lives, our comfort, our safety, our sanity. We will fight until we win or until there's nothing left to fight with. And even then, Jake added, we'll find a way to keep fighting. Dr. Kylara felt a chill run through her body. She was beginning to understand why her investigation team had found the humans so disturbing. They weren't just dangerous because of their abilities. They were dangerous because of their mindset. You're describing monsters, General Vex said quietly. No, Lisa replied. We're describing survivors. Earth was not a kind world. It taught us to be adaptable, resourceful, and relentless. Those traits served us well in survival, and they serve us well in diplomacy. The choice is yours, General. Jake said, we can work together to find a solution that benefits everyone, or we can demonstrate these capabilities in a more direct way. General Vex looked around the chamber, taking in the faces of the assembled representatives. For the first time, he seemed to truly understand what he was dealing with. What do you propose? He asked finally. Lisa smiled, and for the first time it was a genuinely warm expression. Let's talk about what you actually need, and find a way to get it without anyone getting hurt. The demonstration was over. The negotiations took place in a smaller chamber adjacent to the main council hall. General Vex sat across from Lisa Martinez and Jake Thompson, his massive form still imposing but no longer radiating the same confident menace, the other Syndicate. Representatives flanked him, their weapons lowered but still ready. What had started as a demand for tribute had become something entirely different. For the first time in his military career, General Vex found himself genuinely negotiating rather than simply dictating terms. Your species requires resources, Lisa said, reviewing the datapad in front of her. Specifically, rare metals for your ship construction and agricultural products to feed your growing population. We take what we need, General Vex replied. But his voice lacked the harsh edge it had carried earlier. And how much energy do you waste on conquest? Jake asked. How many ships do you lose? How many soldiers? How much time do you spend fighting instead of building? General Vex was quiet for a moment. Conquest is the way of the Syndicate. It has always been our way. But is it working? Lisa pressed. Your expansion has slowed. Your enemies are forming alliances. Your own member species are growing tired of constant warfare. Maybe it's time to try a different approach. One of the other Syndicate representatives, an insectoid being called Commander Zek, spoke up. The small human speaks truth. Our recent campaigns have been costly. 3 worlds have rebelled against our rule in the past year. General Vex turned to glare at him, but Commander Zek continued, the other species learn from each defeat. They share information about our tactics. They coordinate their defenses. Conquest becomes harder with each world we attempt to take. So what do you propose? General Vex asked, turning back to the humans. Trade, Lisa said simply. You have manufacturing capabilities that other species need. They have resources you want. Instead of taking what you need by force, you could acquire it through commerce. Jake activated a holographic display showing trade routes and economic data. Based on our analysis, the Syndicate could obtain twice the resources through trade that you currently acquire through conquest, and it would cost you half the energy and manpower. Trade requires trust, General Vex said. Other species fear us. They would never willingly enter agreements with the Syndicate. They fear you because you've given them reason to, Lisa replied. But fear isn't the only way to get what you want. Respect can be just as effective, and it lasts longer. Respect is earned through strength, General Vex insisted. Is it? Jake asked. Or is it earned through reliability? Through keeping your word? Through solving problems instead of creating them? Lisa leaned forward slightly. General, why do you think the other species in this chamber listen to human representatives? We've been part of galactic civilization for only 50 years. We have no great military fleet. We control no vast territories, yet somehow we consistently achieve our diplomatic goals. Because you're dangerous, General Vex said immediately. No, Lisa replied, because we're useful. We solve problems. We find solutions that work for everyone. We keep our agreements. Other species work with us because they know we'll deliver what we promise. Jake pulled up another display showing human diplomatic agreements. Every treaty we've signed has been honored. Every trade agreement has been fulfilled. Every alliance has been maintained. We've built a reputation for reliability. And that reputation is worth more than any weapon, Lisa added. It opens doors, it creates opportunities, it makes other species want to work with us instead of against us. General Vex studied the data for a long moment. You're suggesting the Syndicate abandon our entire way of life. We're suggesting you evolve, Jake said. Just as every species must evolve to survive in a changing galaxy. And if we refuse? If we continue as we have? Lisa's expression grew serious. Then you'll continue getting the results you've been getting. Increasing resistance, growing alliances against you. More costly battles for smaller gains. Eventually, you'll face a coalition of species that will be strong enough to stop you permanently. Is that a threat? General Vex asked. It's a prediction, Lisa replied. Based on historical patterns and current trends, aggressive expansion has natural limits. You're approaching yours? Commander Zek spoke up again. The humans are right, General. Our intelligence reports confirm that 17 species have formed a mutual defense pact specifically to counter Syndicate expansion. Their combined fleet strength rivals our own. General Vex's blade weapons extended slightly, then retracted. And you believe trade would be more effective than conquest? We believe cooperation is more effective than conflict, Jake said. In every case where humans have chosen negotiation over violence, we've achieved better results with lower costs. But you're still prepared for violence if negotiation fails, General Vex observed. Always, Lisa confirmed. But we prefer not to use that option unless absolutely necessary. Violence is expensive, unpredictable, and tends to create more problems than it solves. Dr. Kailara, who had been granted permission to observe the negotiations, found herself fascinated by the human approach. They weren't trying to intimidate or threaten the Syndicate. Instead, they were systematically addressing the underlying problems that drove Syndicate aggression. What would such an arrangement look like? General Vex asked after a long pause. Lisa activated her own display showing proposed trade routes. And resource exchanges? The Syndicate has advanced manufacturing capabilities. Several council species need manufactured goods but lack the industrial capacity to produce them. You could provide those goods in exchange for raw materials and agricultural products. You would also gain access to technologies that other species have developed, Jake added. Medical advances, communication systems, energy production methods, things that would improve life for all Syndicate member species. And the military aspects? General Vex asked. The Syndicate has many enemies. Defensive pacts, Lisa replied. Mutual protection agreements? If someone attacks Syndicate territory, the other species would help defend it. In return, the Syndicate would help defend their territories. This is unprecedented, General Vex said slowly. So was the formation of the Galactic Council? Jake pointed out. So was the development of universal translation technology. So was the creation of neutral meeting spaces like this station? Progress requires trying new approaches. General Vex looked around the negotiation chamber, his alien features thoughtful. The other Syndicate leaders would need to approve any such arrangement. Of course, Lisa agreed. But you could return to them with a concrete proposal instead of empty threats. You could show them a path forward that doesn't require constant warfare, and if they refuse, then you'll have tried, Jake said. And some member species might choose to pursue these arrangements independently. Change doesn't have to happen all at once. The negotiations continued for several more hours, working through details and addressing concerns. Slowly, a framework began to emerge that could potentially transform the Syndicate from a conquering force into a trading partner. The session drew to a close. General Vex stood and looked directly at Lisa. I have one final question for you, Ambassador. Why are you helping us? The Syndicate has been an enemy of the Council for decades. Lisa stood as well, meeting his gaze without flinching. Because peaceful solutions benefit everyone. Because we'd rather have you as a trading partner than an enemy. And because we believe every species deserves the chance to choose a better path, even dangerous species like the Syndicate? Especially dangerous species, Lisa replied. The more dangerous a species is, the more important it becomes to find ways to work with them peacefully. General Vex extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Very well. I will present your proposal to the Syndicate leadership. I cannot guarantee they will accept it, but I will recommend they consider it seriously. Lisa shook his hand, her small human fingers barely wrapping around his massive alien appendage. That's all we can ask for. As the Syndicate representatives prepared to leave, General Vex turned back one more time. Ambassador Martinez, I believe I finally understand why humans walk unarmed in the council chambers. And why is that, General? Because you don't need weapons to be dangerous. You are dangerous simply by existing. But more importantly, you've learned to use that danger constructively rather than destructively, Lisa smiled. Now you're beginning to understand humans. After the Syndicate forces departed, the station slowly returned to normal operations. But the events of the day had changed something fundamental about how the various species viewed both humans and each other. Dr. Kailara found Lisa in the human quarters later that evening, working on reports from the day's negotiations. Ambassador, may I ask you something? Of course, Doctor. Is it true? Are humans really as dangerous as you made them seem? Lisa looked up from her work, her expression thoughtful. Dr. Kailara, humans are the only species that has ever driven other species to complete extinction on their homeworld. We fought wars that killed millions of our own people. We've developed weapons that could destroy entire planets. We've survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and countless other threats that would have eliminated most species. She paused, then continued. But we've also learned to create art, music, literature,